Good morning, Marty. Welcome back.
Good morning.
Have you been well? No new episodes?
Of the podcast?
No. That's why we're here. I want to help you work through that.
Right. Yeah. I've been good. I'm trying to stay present, one day at a time.
If it's okay with you, I want to try some hypnotherapy. I still have some questions about what happened.
Sure. Yeah, I trust you.
All right. Just relax, and I'm going to count down from 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, Marty, we're back in your car on the night of September 19th. Take me through this night. Tell me about your lost time.
I'm driving from the studio after a weekend of sessions. It's a clear evening, and I'm in for a long drive, so I have some Swim Fans episodes queued up.
Swim Fans.
As I'm driving, I notice a star in the sky, but it's not a star, a satellite. It isn't moving normal. Normal, no.
Stay with me, Marty. The star, tell me more. And don't worry, you're safe here. Nothing can harm you.
It's following me closer and closer. I can see red lights. It could be a plane, but there's no noise. Why doesn't it make noise?
Focus, Marty. What happens next?
It passes me. I keep driving, but something tells me to pull over. There's a dirt road. Get out. I hear the voice in my head. Walk to us. A plate. A large plate. Glowing. There are those red lights. I can see them. Two figures walking toward me. I want to run, but I can't. Just run.
These figures, are they human? Can you see them?
Two men, slightly shorter as they get close, dark hair. One has glasses on, lighter skin, screen print t-shirts.
Podcasters.
Podcast? Oh God. They're grabbing me, taking me to the ship. Recording.
What are they saying? What do they want from you?
Record. When can we record the next episode? When?
Record. When can we record? They're taking me.
Welcome to the Heroes 3 Halloween special for 2022, and this year we are taking a look at, it's kind of a short guide, it's kind of just a jumping off point for us to just talk about some spooky stuff, but our kind of center point for today is Kore ga UFO da Soratobu Enban, which is like, what is that like? Here, UFOs,
it's
flying
like,
saucers,
yeah,
or something like that.
This is the UFO, and Soratobu Enban means flying saucer. That's straight up what it means.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like a short animated film from when? It's like 1975.
75. Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. Yeah, so this is a really interesting thing, and it's something I encountered by accident some years ago. This is a 16-minute short produced by Toei, and it was produced in conjunction with another short film that would become a Super Robot show. So this is the same production that handled a lot of Go Nagai's work. So Go Nagai's like Devilman and Mazinger Z and all that fun stuff that I really like. And the reason that I know about this is because of that, because some years back I got like this Hong Kong DVD set of like Mazinger Z films. So
nice.
Back in the 70s, when Mazinger Z was a TV series, Mazinger Z started off as a manga, and it was also an animated TV series, but they would do these, basically, they call them movies, but they're basically little specials, like kind of short films that would usually run in theaters tied to another like animation. So I don't know, like Treasure Island or some old like kind of anime. What we have here, this was stuck in that DVD set, and I had no idea what it was, and I'm like, what is this? And I started to watch it, and I'm like, this is like a UFO documentary. And that's what we're talking about today, and I think it's probably one of the more obscure things that we've ever talked about on the podcast. For some
Which
time
is
it
saying
was
something kind of.
Yeah, right. I know.
It's like this actually, I guess I didn't check. I'm guessing this joins our episodes that don't have Wikipedia articles.
There is There's a listing on Anime News Network that gives some info. There's a Japanese listing on Wikipedia for this that has a lot of information, but it's in Japanese.
Okay, so there's nothing in English. Wikipedia.
Yep, but you can kind of connect the dots between what this was tied to. So this was produced and shown like ahead of this other feature called Uchu Enban Dai Senso, which is space like UFO Great War, basically. And that was like a super robot show that like it was positioned like a prototype for what would become UFO Robo Grendizer. And I this sounds complicated, but I'm getting to the end of it real quick. And Grendizer was basically like a pseudo sequel to Mazinger Z. So you've got your hero that pilots a huge robot, but the theming of this was all about like aliens and UFOs. So in order to kind of prepare kids for this hero, they basically made this like little documentary, and I love it. It's like this weird kind of niche little, I don't know, like it's a piece of media that I feel like people should see, even if they're not interested in anime or UFOs, because it's just like so weird to me, but I love it.
It is. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, like you need to know what our world is filled with, and that it goes beyond the limits that you're imagining.
Yeah. It's this weird. It's a weird time capsule, and it's also kind of a time capsule within that time capsule.
Yeah.
Because it's about stuff that happened in the United States in like the 50s, but also it's being animated in Japan in the 70s. And it's all obviously anime from the 70s all looks pretty wild. Like there's just a really cool, unique look to it, and it's real janky, which I love.
Yeah.
And then it's additionally like a lot of people, whenever they kind of are getting into anime, you don't notice it at first, but people in Westerners are drawn different in anime than the Japanese people, and you can see it so incredibly plainly in this. It's like these are white people, and this is how they draw with like their the big blue eyes and stuff, but they're not big in the same way that you're used to anime eyes being big and stuff. It's real interesting.
The other thing that I really love about it, and we'll get into it as we just talk about these, is it's basically segmented by these incidents, but between these incidents that they're discussing, there's like these fun, like speculative segments where it's like, what is a UFO? This is what a UFO would look like. And this is a cross section of a UFO. And this is what happens inside the UFO. And I love that 70s anime aesthetic put to these ideas. I don't know. It was a while before I really got used to older anime like this, because this isn't of a higher quality. This could like really sit with like a TV episode of like a Mazinger Z.
Yeah, or like I was thinking of like Lupin the Third.
Yeah, or
70s series.
I think maybe people would have seen more along the lines of like Speed Racer or something like that, which is from Tatsunoko, but same like kind of production values here. So I once I understood like it, and once I kind of got into like the super robot stuff, which I really, really love, it's a look that I really, really enjoy and I gravitate towards. And like sometimes in modern anime, they'll kind of, I don't know, like kind of send up this stuff, and I really like that too.
Yeah.
We're looking to the skies now. So they bring you in, like the opening titles are like this really ominous music. And they're showing you just these images of space and images of satellites and stars. And I
love how it's like a documentary. Like it really is presenting itself like these are, the real things, and like these are real pictures that are, totally. It's real pictures with like, big red circles around, things that are either clearly doctored in or are just, could be anything.
And it feels more like an air of importance than kind of like a tongue-in-cheek documentary as a style or something. Yeah, so it's really, you have nothing to compare it to.
It was like I said, it's produced by Toei Animation. It's directed by a man named Kazukiyo Shigeno, and a lot of the staff members that were involved with the production of this were also involved with Devilman, which is not like really sci-fi. It's like more of a horror superhero situation. And also the composer. So music here is by a man named Go Misawa. And actually, I believe that a lot of the music that they're using in here is from the Devilman score. So,
cool.
yeah, you can tell this is kind of a lower budget situation. And like you were saying, there's a lot of still images too. There's some kind of fun moments of animation. And actually, I think at the front end of this, we're going to get into this first story, has some nice animation. But outside of that, it's pretty what you would expect to see on TV.
It's funny. At first, I was thinking like, oh, wow, they're like, this is like, most, whenever I'll admit I'm kind of I'm a retro anime poser. I love the way that a lot of this stuff looks, but watching 70s anime is real tough. Because it's a lot. It's like, if you get 4 frames every second, you're lucky. Like it's a lot of still shots, a lot of things.
In my day, we didn't have frames to throw around. Yeah.
Yeah. But when I saw this first bit, I was like, oh, cool. I guess that makes sense. If it's like a short thing, then maybe they would like throw more money at this than they
looks almost like
at,
G.I. Joe or something.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. But then after the first kind of like scene, which is like a U.S. Air Base in the 40s, like seeing this thing appearing in the sky and pursuing it. After that, it kind of is. It's even more shoestring.
Yeah. This first incident it's called the Mantell UFO incident. This happened in January 7th, 1948. This is a real documented event that happened.
On January 7th, 1948, Mantell was part of a team ferrying P-51 fighters from Georgia to his home base in Kentucky. Near Godman Field, Fort Knox, Tower asked the team to investigate reports of a strange, unidentified flying object. The planes were not equipped for high altitude, and all but Tommy turned back at 25,000 feet. Tommy pursued the UFO and described a large metallic object. At 33,000 feet, his plane heeled over and came down in a spin. It crashed and burned in a Kentucky field.
Yeah, I had heard about this one before. I didn't know that's what it was called, but I had heard of that story of like the U.S. pilot like pursuing the thing and then like moving impossibly quickly and stuff.
Yeah. What happened was there were several people that noticed an unidentified flying object in the sky, and they reported it, and this actually got to the Air Force Base nearby, and there was a pilot that's in a training exercise. His name is Captain Thomas Mantell, and him alongside of 3 other P-51 Mustang pilots were told to pursue this UFO, and what ended up happening was that for various reasons, they were in the training exercise, so they weren't really equipped to handle like a high pursuit, and a lot of them broke away, but Mantell continued his pursuit, and as the UFO kind of escaped from him, he pulled up to a higher altitude, and what they show in the anime differs because it's a lot more sensational. But the real documented story is that he was pulling up and he wasn't equipped with oxygen to help him reach those altitudes, and he blacked out and he crashed. But here, what you see is them pursuing
like a blaze of glory.
Yeah, he gets close and he says something like, "I can see a person," and there's like one frame of like a little alien in a window, and then he like has like this freak out, like a mental attack, and then they show the fighter jet that he's in explode, and this was like the first like real widespread documentation of like an accident directly tied to a UFO. He died, and there's like actually a marker like where he crashed of like what happened. It's kind of crazy.
Do we know what actually happened? Like, I feel like that would have been decommissioned at this point.
Well, no, I mean, based on what I read,
Dude,
there's
we need
like
to get Tom Long on here. Right. Cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the man's coming out to get us. Speaking the truth.
But like any kind of UFO story, there are all these rumors, right? So some of the rumors that were jumping around at the time were there. It was a Soviet missile. This is like around this time, right? That these stories come out. There's another story that the UFO shot him down, and one of the things that people said was that his body, when it was recovered, was like riddled with bullets. There's no real proof of all of this stuff. One of the stories is that his body was never found, and that the wreckage that they found was radioactive. And there was also these kind of explanations. We've got the weather balloon. You always hear about that, right? It was fog, from like reflected on something, or weather balloon. There was another story that they're saying that Mantell confused Venus for a UFO, because I guess sometime a little bit earlier there was a similar situation where a pilot was confused by something, and it ended up being determined that it was actually him seeing Venus was misdirecting him. Yeah, that's the first and most dramatic. There's another story in here that's pretty dramatic in a different way, but it's pretty good way to rope those kids in to watch some alien stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. The next bit that I love is that it's like, at first it's saying like there's been incidents all around the world, and all these incidents in Japan alone and stuff. And then it kind of does like a, here's what it might look like in a UFO.
では、大型のサラ型 UFO の内部はどうなっているのかな？これがエンジンルーム。中央に光っているのはエネルギータワーだ。UFO のすべての力の元なのだ。
Yeah.
And it
The
has
cross-section,
these awesome. I love cross sections, and I especially love cross sections from
this
the
era,
70s. Like, there's just a look to them that I absolutely love so much, and it's showing like how these different aliens work, and we get to see the aliens a little bit, which are kind of fun.
Oh man, it's the best. And yeah, with something like Astro Boy or Mazinger Z, you get these artworks where they show like all the inner workings of these robots, and it's definitely in line with what we're seeing here. I mean, there's another story right before this, and I won't dwell on it too long, but it's about a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold, and the reason that I wanted to bring it up is that he saw like these unidentified flying objects over like Washington State. And it was actually widely publicized, and this was in like 1947. And actually, that story is the first time that the term flying saucer, was used. And that same year, it kind of spurred all these copycats, and everybody was looking up into the sky. I guess, one of the most well-known incidents is the Roswell alien, UFO crash incident.
Yeah.
But what people really don't talk about is that incident happened, in the following wave of like UFO craze that was sparked by Kenneth Arnold's story. And I mean, when you think about that and kind of think about the context of things, how people really want to see something and they want to believe, Mulder's poster in X-Files is I want to believe. I think
want to believe.
Want is a kind of a big, like, strong word in that statement, where it's like you can tell that sometimes people are maybe pulling a lot more. And I mean, I'm not a skeptic really. I'm totally like I'm more into believing things, and I mean, I'm not just gonna blindly believe things, but you can see how some people really kind of stretch the truth or really want to make something sensational out of stuff. And
Right.
I think the Kenneth Arnold story sparked a lot of that. Oh man, we're talking about aliens.
Yeah.
Dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, the next kind of big bit is kind of the thing that was the most interesting for you, Carlos, which is the
Oh man.
was it Betty and Barney Hill?
It's
like this couple in the early 60s that was driving and had a alien abduction experience.
Yeah, this happened September 19th, 1961. There was a couple, the Betty and Barney Hill, and we're seeing that here animated, and it's great. This is actually really really well documented case of alien abduction. They were traveling like home from a vacation up to Niagara Falls, and as they were traveling, Betty noticed like a star in the sky, and she actually was kind of worried about it. But here's where I'm talking about how people really want to believe stuff too, and how the arguments on both sides can be made. Her sister had seen a flying saucer a bit earlier, and she kind of became like kind of into that and really wanted that to happen. But I mean, regardless, what happens here is basically they're like cut off by a UFO. This UFO lands, and actually when you see it in the animation, the design of the UFO is in line with descriptions that the Hills made. So it has like these red lights on each side and a window like facing them, and both of them have described this in their statements. So yeah, what happened is they experienced an abduction, and what initially happened was they experienced missing time. They were driving, and then they had a moment where they weren't sure what happened, and then they woke up out of that moment and they continued driving home. But it wasn't until later that they really kind of felt something was wrong, and they kind of pursued it a little bit. Betty was more into like believing what it was. Barney was like more on the denial side, and that's what I think is really interesting about this story, is that they eventually sought therapy, and under hypnosis they were able to uncover these memories, and they were both taken separately to these sessions, and their stories lined up. But you can tell when you hear one and you hear the other, Betty is, I mean, she's definitely scared when she's talking, but she's a lot more descriptive, and there's a lot more story going on in her story. And yeah, the hypnotist isn't like saying much. She's saying a lot. But when you hear Barney talking, you can hear it in his voice, and you can tell that it sounds very genuine. They both sound genuine, but I'm saying like it sounds kind of weird when you hear one person telling a story that you kind of tell they want to be excited about it, and then you hear another person that's like, I don't want to talk about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I try to maintain control so Betty cannot tell I am scared. God, I'm scared. It's all right. You can go right on, experience it. It will not hurt you now. I got to get my gun. All right. All right, that's all. Stop. Go to sleep, Steve. You forget now. You forget it now. You've forgotten. Calm now. Relax.
So Barney's side of it is like pretty harrowing at moments. And I was telling you guys about this before we recorded, but last night I was listening to this recording a bit, and my wife, she was working early, so she had gone to bed, and I was getting really into this guy just describing these things, and I was like, oh my god, this is pretty crazy. What I didn't know is that my wife had gotten up and she was walking around, and she got behind me, and it scared the shit out of me. Oh my god, it was so bad. It was so bad. But anyways, I stopped listening, and then I finished listening this morning when it was nice and sunny and bright out.
Yeah.
But I do, like I said, I want to believe this stuff because it sounds really interesting, and I'm not arrogant to say that we're the only people in this universe. And who knows what we don't know a lot, so who knows what could be out there.
Yeah, totally.
But I also am kind of a realist in the way that it's like, it's almost like this Frank Dukes situation, right? you hear somebody talking, and they're just talking and talking, like I am right now.
Dude, God, as soon as you bring up Frank, I'm like, oh, UFO sounds so much more credible than any of Frank's stories.
Kinda, yeah.
Right. But it's a really exciting story, whether you believe it or not. Like, if you hear them talking about it, and how they portray it here is pretty accurate. They kind of gloss over some details because this is like the typical like anal probing, like abduction situation. But the fact of the matter is that according to their story, they were basically drove off the road, and these aliens came out and they actually escorted them out of their cars, took them onto their ship, and then separated them and then did tests. Betty mentions like there's a moment where they bring out a needle and stab her navel, and she's screaming to them that she's in pain, and what she says is that these men that they just call them men, they wave their hand in front of her face, and then she doesn't feel any more pain. And yeah, Barney says that when he's looking at the men, that he can feel their eyes like in his brain, and he's saying that their mouths aren't moving, but he knows what they're telling him. And then they take him and they do some tests on him, and this is all like these were repressed memories. And once they are done with their experiment, they are put back into their vehicle and they're pushed along. And they said when they woke up, they noticed like some weird beeping noise. And that was the same noise that they noticed when they started to not remember what happened. So it seems like, some device was used, like a Men in Black, like brain wipe situation. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy stuff.
Oh, dude. Do we have any good spooky music that we could just have underneath most of this, Matthew?
Oh, we need to.
Just have the unsolved mysteries.
Dude, when I was a kid, that intro music killed me.
The theme song.
Yeah.
The theme song's spooky.
And they would show that like image of an alien's head, and like when I was a little kid, oh man, that messed me up.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of this episode, and like I said, it's only 60 minutes, but if you're interested in that story, it's very well documented. And like I said, their hypnosis sessions, the recordings are online, so I'll definitely add that to our episode notes.
One brief bit that I love is that it shows that it's basically is getting into like ancient aliens at this point, where it's saying like aliens may have been observing us for millennia, and it shows like these ancient drawings and stuff, and then having next to it like this is what an alien, like a person might have drawn this because it's an alien that looks like this.
It's my favorite part of the episode.
It's real fun.
Seeing like a cave painting and then like, well, at the time, a modern representation, what that could actually be like, that just sparks the imagination. If I was a little kid and I saw that, I would be through the roof.
Forever.
Yeah, I would be so excited to see that. And yeah, one of the things that they show in there is like the ancient Japanese like clay dolls, the dogu, which kind of looks like a wide head. It kind of looks like an alien if you're looking at it.
Yeah,
and yeah, there's some video game stuff that references that. So
I was gonna say you'll definitely if you've played like Animal Crossing and you want to collect all of the art pieces, one of them is those.
Exactly. Yeah, in Darkstalkers, the first Darkstalkers game. Well, in the first Darkstalkers game, the final boss is Pyron, who is an alien in classification. Because in that game, there's all these different monster types, and then before you fight Pyron, the second to last boss, his name is Phobos, Huitzel in the American version, and he's a robot, but he's basically the same design as like a Dogu, and I love that. And then La Mulana, which is like my favorite game ever. It's basically like Ancient Aliens, the game.
Reset the clock.
Yeah, there we go. In the second game, you get this, it's called the Clay Doll suit, and you need to use that suit to go into an area which is space. You basically go out to space, and you wear that Clay Doll suit, and it's basically like a ancient astronaut suit that looks like the Dogu. And it's really, really cool.
Yeah, honestly, the concept of ancient aliens has always been really cool to me. It's just, it gets co-opted for a lot of weird stuff.
Oh, man.
And a lot of it has kind of a weirdly kind of racist bent to it, which is no good.
These are all different things that, you could believe it, you could not believe it. I think the most fun thing is about discussing it, And one of the drawings that you see here is like old Japanese drawing. It's kind of this round looking thing with a lady with a box. So that's
so cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's based on an old Japanese like account. It's called Utsurobune, which is like hollow ship. And it's basically like this old story. I had some notes. It's like in the 1800s. Yeah, so it was in 1803, and it's basically on the eastern coast of Japan. People said that this boat washed up that didn't look like anything they knew, and then out of the boat came this woman that looked like nothing that they say she looked like she was a foreigner, and she wasn't speaking their language. And they basically took her in, and she was holding this box, and she wouldn't let go of the box. Like when people were like, what is it? Like, and she was just very protective of it. So they ended up basically giving her food and water and sending her on her own way. And people have interpreted that like it could have been a UFO encounter in like ancient Japan, which I think is really, really cool.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising that it hasn't been like folded into some big like action movie backstory or something.
Yeah, and I think that some like stories have kind of taken ideas from it, but it hasn't been a direct adaptation of things, and I think it's really rife for picking.
It was cool they mention Foo Fighters, not like the band, but like the name of the band comes from basically UFOs that Allied pilots reported during World War II.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So they talked about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. There's another incident that is like another military incident. It happened in the 70s also.
Oh yeah, they're like in a helicopter. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this came out in 75, right? So this account is from 1974, which would just be a year before, which is kind of
possible.
Yeah. And it's called the Coin Helicopter Incident, and it took place in like Ohio. And basically there's this group of military men in a helicopter doing an exercise at night, and they realize that there's a UFO like near them, and as they're trying to evade it, this UFO followed suit and was like staying at like the same pace with them, and they tried to like outmaneuver it. Like they tried to descend, but the UFO like kind of like has a tractor beam on them.
Apparently, when we were supposed to be descending at 2,000 feet a minute at 100 knots, we were climbing at 1,000 feet a minute with the controls still established for a descent. And we went from 1,700 feet up to 3,500 feet and topped out at 3,800 feet. But I would like to stress one important fact, and that is there is approximately 20 years of Army aviation experience between the 4 men on board the helicopter that night. We have been trained to follow procedures and regulations in reporting incidents, regardless of how they're accepted. And we try to follow those procedures. And we reported the incident as it occurred and have avoided any speculation on the subject.
So according to the story, the pilot, Coyne, Lawrence J. Coyne is his name, he took over controls and he's trying to lower the helicopter, but they were ascending. So it was like we weren't in control. And they represent that here pretty well. They do kind of do a fun thing where they tie it to the Mantell incident. These stories were completely unrelated, but I like that they bookend this this episode with these, where you see the pilot said, or one of the other guys says, "Oh, this is just like the Mantell incident," and then he has a vision of Mantell dying in the fighter jet, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it is kind of smart because I suppose like these military observations maybe have a bit more, I don't know, more of an air of authority or something to them.
Yeah, right. And those were facts that in the recounting of these stories, well, not Thomas Mantell because he passed away, but in this Coin incident, that captain, he says, "I have been in the military for 30 years. I have 19 years of experience, and this is what we dealt with that night, and I can't explain it," which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
dude, awesome.
And the thing ends with, just kind of more like, could the aliens be trying to get to Earth or like see how far they can get into space? And it has one of my absolute favorite little lines in this,
証拠はない。だが否定する理由もない。
which is translated as, "There is no proof, but there's no reason to deny it either."
Yes. Yeah.
That feels like that's the entire little short kind of summed up. It's like,
Yes.
come on, it's fun. Come on.
Yeah. And I also like how they present you with these questions like,
地球に興味と関心を持った彼らが今もし君の目の前に現れたらどうする
what are they doing here? If they are out there, do they have like a federation of aliens that they, it's like all these fun little questions that I just think about. If I was watching this when I was a kid, I'd be like, my brain would be on fire. I'd be like, oh my God, I'd have to tell everybody about it. And
it's really cool because I think, I guess going back to what we were saying about the beginning, this kind of serious documentary style feel. And I've got to say overall that this is like a rare piece that's digging into UFO lore, and it's not very sensational. I mean, yeah, a couple of maybe the moments of the way the animation is directed or whatever. But yeah, it does, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's trying to sell you a bill of goods. It's like, you're free to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Here's just some interesting like concepts to mull over. And I don't know. Definitely not what you get in like Ancient Aliens or almost any like US produced content.
Right. One thing I wanted to mention we didn't talk about was when in that hill abduction, they have the aliens like talk, and they have this weird like distorted backwards talk or something. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's fun.
So that's pretty much it. And like I said, they're just getting you all juiced up so you can see their next robot show about UFOs and then buy all the toys.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta buy the toys.
Really good stuff. But okay, as a little bonus, I wanted to do a little bit of digging and this isn't a long thing, this is a really short thing. So I found out about a UFO incident in Wisconsin that I wanted to tell you guys about.
Ooh, fun.
So this happened.
It would only be fitting. I don't know.
Sure. This is 1961, so the same year of the Hill stuff. April 18th, 1961, in a town called Eagle River, Wisconsin. There's a guy, and this is his name. I'm not making this up. Joe Simonton. That sounds so fake.
Oh, dude, he should be on that baseball roster of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
From fighting baseball.
Yes. So he was a chicken farmer in Eagle River. And he says that on April 18th, 1961, while he was enjoying a late breakfast, he heard a commotion outside. When he went to check, he saw a flying saucer, quote, brighter than chrome, floating above his house. I love this bit. So the craft landed, and out came 3 aliens who he described as, and I quote, Italian-looking.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Not sure how I feel about that, but
yeah.
okay.
Did you care to comment?
You can imagine how extra special I felt this would be, being able to tell you that.
That's really funny.
And it gets even better. So they gave him a container, and Joe said that he somehow understood that they needed water.
Dude,
so he got them
container, just like in the Japanese.
Yeah, there you go. Oh shit.
Oh man, it's all coming together.
So he got them
through the looking glass people.
Yeah, he got them the water, and then he noticed that they were cooking, quote, pancakes on a sort of flameless grill. And he asked them for a pancake, and they shared the pancakes with him and took off.
Dope.
That's his encounter.
I would, if I was that guy, I would open up a pancake store,
Yeah.
pancake shack,
Dude.
and it's just to be like, this is exactly what they serve me.
And
I like this
these
just like-
pancakes are out of this world. Sorry.
No, it feels like there's a friendly, just low key energy to this. Like he wouldn't really try to convince anyone, too viciously about this. It's like, no, that's what I think happened. So, I mean, I'm just picturing him then as the manager of this restaurant. No, I'm pretty sure it was aliens with their pancakes.
The thing that's funny is
no
you can
probing.
Find,
it's a good story.
Yeah, you can find photos of him holding the pancake. It looks like just like a fried up something. He said that
Oh
the
wait, so
pancakes.
he took pictures like while he still had the pancake.
Yeah, and it was like a story that he would tell to people. And actually, so he said that the pancakes tasted like cardboard.
Dude, this guy is so creative. It's like he looked Italian, and they made pancakes.
They tasted like cardboard.
He said that he regretted telling the story, and that's something that you would encounter a lot back then. People were scared to talk about it because they would be, laughed at, or their credentials would be destroyed. So like military people and the people in small towns just like would be like a scarlet letter on them. Even Barney Hill, he really did. For a while, he denied what happened. Betty was having she had a handful of dreams that were basically recounting that, and she would talk to him about it. And he's like, stop doing that. And it wasn't until like a year or two later where they decided to actually seek some therapy for it, and that's when all that came to light.
Oh wow.
Aliens, guys. I mean, I don't know. I've already really stated how I feel. Like, sure, why not, right?
Yeah.
It could be cool. Who knows what's out there? Who knows where we came from? I don't know.
I gotcha. What are some? Do y'all have any other like favorite like alien? I'll say specifically aliens coming to Earth films or whatever. Because it's funny. I kind of like talking about like positive alien invade or aliens coming to Earth stories. I always, of course, love Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Which is like the ultimate. Aliens come to Earth, but they're super cool, right? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
And there's just something so like, I don't know, the movie it's just sort of poetic and I don't know, it just kind of tumbles along in this beautiful way. Yeah. It has
this like it's looking up at space as like a beautiful thing, not looking up at space as like this cosmic horror, which I love stuff that does either. So.
Yeah, me too.
Totally.
Me too. Richard Dreyfuss is like the worst dad. Man. He just is like, I'm leaving. See you later.
Yeah. He saw it in the mashed potatoes. You gotta go.
Dude. So
my wife and I, we took a road trip some years ago. We made a point to. That was actually like the final destination on our trip was Devil's Tower.
Oh, the Devil's Tower.
Oh, dude,
that was
awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, E.T. Actually tying this to The Matrix. When I was doing homework for the Matrix episode, there's a bit where there's an interview with Yong Woo Ping, and Yong Woo Ping says like E.T. is like his
how much he
favorite movie.
Oh, that's fun.
And he says something along the lines. It's like it reminds me of
like
a Hong Kong
film.
Film. I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Yeah,
it's so cool. You kind of know what he means, though. It's like, I mean, Spielberg in general. Just I feel like they would be kind of kindred spirits. They seem like they're both very instinctive, but instinctive around like where best to put a camera, which is such a rare gift.
Oh yeah, beautifully put.
And E.T. especially is like intentionally, shot at this lower level to be kind of like a child's eye line most of the film. And I don't know. That's such a cool story. As far as some of the other like spooky stuff, like I have a soft spot for some of the old like 50s horror stuff with like older stuff like The Day the Earth Stood Still, of course, and War of the Worlds and everything. But I love The Blob and like the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers and stuff where it's like it's a little less defined, but just tons of fear and panic. And the first remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland is man, it's so great. Yeah,
that's a good one. And I mean, okay, Asian cinema, right? Honestly, I mean, when it comes to like anime and stuff, there's a lot of that, and Japanese live action really like took a lot of ideas from that, like Message from Space and all of these like Warning from Space, and there's a lot of really cool stuff that I mean, eventually I would love to talk about on the podcast. Out of Hong Kong, though, like Forbidden City Cop.
I keep thinking about the
flying fairy
with the cleaver
from beyond the sky.
Great. Well, and also
that's one of those the whole living in your GIF that lives in your mind rent free. It's just
the head's
them
him
the head's bobbing up and down while he's holding the cleaver and keeps almost cutting the guy.
Yeah,
dude, so great,
so good.
And eventually, I know we'll at some point do probably another Stephen Chow arc, and his film after Kung Fu Hustle, CJ7, is actually about like his own kind of almost ET-esque feature. That's I have a real soft spot for that movie.
Yeah, there's some fun Stephen Chow riffing on his own films in that too, which
yeah, totally.
I mean, this could be a really long episode, but I mean, sci-fi is something that I also have loved all of my life. I think we were talking about it on Discord, but I'm pretty sure the first VHS tape I watched was RoboCop. Right? And I mean, but all of that stuff, Aliens, I love both of those films in different ways. And
yeah, totally. Well, and it's cool, I suppose, like getting into the Halloween spirit. I feel like a crucial flavor is this like this blend of like fear and love, you know, where it's like, oh, I want to run away from that, but I'm also so fascinated. And I feel like as the years go on, pop culture kind of, I don't know, it's like we find a way to make these scary things even like cuter and like more huggable. And
yeah.
And I don't know, part of me thinks that's a good thing. Because it's funny, just reflecting on these aliens stuff, it's like, it seems like there's just as many kind of terrifying, you know, flicks as there are you really like cuddly family friendly. Oh yeah, Mac and Me is probably the best of all.
Oh man.
It's funny you're saying about making spooky things cuddly. I was trying to think like what are like, you know, like cuddleified like spooky aliens, because like obviously there's you know I have lots of little decorations right now in my house that are of like skeletons and ghosts and stuff, but I realized it's Cthulhu and Lovecraft stuff, because all of that is like it's cosmic horrors, but it is like ancient aliens, and I feel like you could buy a Cthulhu plushie right now if you wanted to.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure you're right. Yeah,
which is just kind of funny.
Well, I definitely feel like if I ever saw a UFO or an alien and it was getting to be a harrowing situation, I would feel that way. I'm very curious, but I'm also terrified.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's just a fun we'll take a look at this kind of weird thing. Is it on like YouTube or anything like that, or?
So it was for a time. Okay. Right now it isn't. I was really toying with the idea of uploading it to something just so people could see it. Who pulled it
off? I wonder.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
This is the only podcast that like has the guts to
hard hitting
tell the really measured take that doesn't commit.
The Men in Black are gonna come for us.
Yeah, exactly. Not the fun 90s Men in Black. No. The spooky.
Yeah. The shadow dudes.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you wanted to look it up, you'd be able to find it if you really wanted to watch it, if you know what I mean.
It's probably like in the depths of like Venmo or something. Not Venmo. Vimeo. Sorry,
that's what I was.
You could Venmo me, and I could send it over to you.
We just need to subliminally mention Venmo like every few minutes.
But like on the depths of Daily Motion or Vimeo or something like that.
Oh yeah, totally.
It did have a couple of localized titles. What was the one? The Great Saucers, or I wrote it down.
Oh, dude, The Great Saucers.
It was there's a localized title of Get That Flying Saucer, which I think is really funny. Yeah,
that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is a fun little Halloween version. Happy Halloween to all of our listeners out there. And thanks to Carlos for writing and acting in our that little sketch at the beginning. And thanks to Alex for voicing the psychiatrist.
What are you guys talking about?
Nothing.
Okay.
Well, thank you for checking out our show here. Before I get into plugs, though, if you have a question for us, please send it in to heroes3podcast@gmail.com, because for our 100th episode spectacular, which is wild, we are going to be doing a Q&A. So I think that'd be super fun. So yeah, again, send that in to heroes3podcast@gmail.com. Or honestly, you tweet at us too at Heroes3 Podcast. on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook if you want as well. But yeah, this is kind of a special episode. This will probably go up before The Matrix, so next week is still going to be The Matrix. So until then, I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Remember your training. Heroes 3 is part of the Mercado Brothers Podcast Network.